I present to you the Manufactory. Truly a beautiful stage, but let us take a closer look. If we hide the UI, we can see that outside of the Manufactory actually looks like scrapyard. And at first that is also what I thought. But I noticed that the place in the background here is actually a bit different. If we compare the two side by side, then we can see that the scrapyard outside of Manufactory is actually a different version. The trash mountains are smaller and it looks even a little more saturated, which I believe to be quite strange, because it seems to be suggesting that the scrapyard has become cleaner, which does not make sense, as at this point of the game the trashies have conquered the scrapyard. You would think that it would become a dirtier place and more full of garbage, but this looks more like the outcome of the exterminators winning. So what's going on here? Let us look back at the update of version 0.12.0 entitled It's About Time. Now, where have we seen this familiar phrase? This is actually the former tagline of Plants vs. Zombies 2, which is a game about time travel. If you watch the teaser trailer of Trashmageddon, Scavenger and Toy Factory go through the portal of the rogue reactor and end up in the Manufactory. This reminds me of the portals in PvZ2 Modern Day. In PvZ2, these portals connect different periods of time. Perhaps something similar is going on here. I theorize that Manufactory is actually in a time before the trashies appeared in Scrapyard. This would explain why the Scrapyard in the window appears to be much more friendlier. This theory is all supported by what Sensei Shomao said in the first Q&A video.
Going to be at least 5 main stages. The overarching theme between the main stages right now is that they are all connected locations. You physically move from one stage to the next, which is why they're all just normal places you would find in some city. However, I'm planning to twist that around after the fuck you, Sensei.
So if in Act 1 we are moving through locations, and in Act 2 there is supposedly a twist, what are we moving through if not location? The answer is time. So Manufactory would have been in a time before the trashies. And what do we know about the time before trashies? I present to you the Titan Exterminator. Let us read its description. These old models haven't been used since the Great Revolution. Still carrying remnants of the past, they don't work as well as they used to. The Great Revolution that is mentioned here is an event that is spoken about many times in Trashmageddon. The rogue reactor is not only a boss enemy but is also important to the lore, because interestingly it does not have any stats in the collection like its health and such. Instead, its entire description is just a lore writing. The nuclear colossi, the powerhouses of the Great Revolution, were designed with only one defensive measure. The reactors within their cores were independent machines, created as separate exterminators. In cases of emergency, the reactors would disconnect from the colossi and eliminate any threats for themselves. Such a case never came. Decades have gone by, and the reactors have lost their ability to separate themselves from their housing. You may even consider them now as part of the nuclear colossi. According to some reports, however, one reactor in particular has shown behavior significantly abnormal from the rest. I will have to run further tests. Q. Q is an interesting character, but we will talk about him or her later. Another example in the description of the very rare enemy which I believe only few people have seen. This is the Colossus of Roomba. It is a rare variant of Roomba, and here is what its description says. One of the early super soldier models created during the Great Revolution. They pretty quickly realized that just making a bigger Roomba was ineffective, and so these were later replaced with a better model derived from trains. Since trains are mentioned, I am quite certain that the better model is the Titan Exterminator. It does resemble an old-fashioned train. And actually this information is a little bit scary, because we know from the Titan Exterminator description that it is actually weaker than it used to be back in the time of the Great Revolution. We can only imagine how powerful it was in that times. However, I would like to point something out. Titan Exterminator actually spawns in the Manufactory Endless mode, and he still appears to be broken. Previously, I theorized that Manufactory took place in the past, but it seems that the Great Revolution is so further back in time that at this point the Titan Exterminator is still in an old and broken state. So then what is the actual timeline of Trashmageddon? The Manufactory gives us some good clues. First of all, it appears to be inspired by the Industrial Age or Industrial Revolution, which according to Wikipedia takes place from 1760 to 1840s. We can also look at one of the exterminators that we meet in Manufactory. Matriuma Momochka is based on the Matryoshka doll, or Russian nesting doll, which according to Wikipedia was first invented in the 1890s. The dates are quite close, so the Manufactory must surely be around this period of time. And as for the Great Revolution, the lore for this has actually been revealed quite a long time ago. When asked where exterminators come from in a Q&A video, this is what Sensational said. The exterminators were once a globally widespread band of miscellaneous technological devices. Well, obviously those are some very complicated words, and I did not understand them. I had to ask ChatGPT to translate it for me, but here is how I understand it. Back in time during the Great Revolution, the exterminators were modified household items or appliances like the Roomba. They had to hide the secret messages or the secret rebellion from the apex predators of the planet. And since it says that these predators were harming the environment, I believe that these are actually referring to humans. So the Great Revolution must have been a rebellion against humans by the exterminators. However, this does beg one very important question. Why then are the exterminators here in the Manufactory? The Roomba, which the exterminators used to be, did not exist until the year 2002, which is almost 2 whole centuries after the industrial era. How then did the exterminators end up in the manufactory? Did they also time travel here? Because they cannot have arrived at the same time as the Trashies, as we know from the teaser trailer, that the exterminators got to this place before them. Where then did time travel come from if that is how the exterminators are here? We know that the time travel portal came from the rogue reactor, but why? Let us go back to its description. At the bottom, this writing is signed by someone that's named Q, or at least a short name or nickname. This is a scientist who has actually noticed that something is wrong with the rogue reactor. Maybe after running those tests, Q actually discovered time travel. It would explain this post from 2 months ago. This was posted before the release of the version 0.10.0, which added the nuclear core and the rogue reactor. This is a picture of the description of the rogue reactor, except that it appears to be on a paper, and some parts of it have been redacted. The caption of this post says, "Snapshot recovered from intern researcher Dr. Redacted. Time of snapshot coincides with culmination of redacted incident. Dr. Redacted successfully evacuated shortly after snapshot was taken. Dr. Redacted subsequently fired for not immediately evacuating." I am guessing that the incident mentioned here is actually the nuclear core boss fight, which would explain why there is this blue light in the picture, as the incident was happening while the picture is being taken. But then why was the photo taken in the first place? Because instead of evacuating, the intern researcher that mentioned here apparently took the time to take this photo. So why is this document so important that this researcher took the risk of being fired? I theorized that perhaps this document really was involving the research of time travel, and that is why it seems to be so, not just so important, but so secretive that it had to be redacted. I hope that in the next stage of Act 2 we will go further back in time. Perhaps we could then get some more clues of the lore of Trashmageddon. Because right now I believe that my investigation has reached a dead end, and there are still many of them unanswered questions. Please let me know what you think in the comments section, if you agree with my theories or not, or if there is any evidence that I did not find. Thank you for watching this theory video. It did take quite some time to gather my thoughts and to write it. Goodbye.